All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to the 159th episode of the Grow My DJ Business podcast, brought to you by Digital Music Pool, the Grow My DJ Business Discord, and also today, Parari Production Academy. We have a very special guest. Welcome, Parari.
Thank you, guys. And I'm not doing the fire horns today because you are supposed to do them, and you still don't have them. I'm very upset.
We're living in the Stone Age out here, all right, Mikey? We're lucky we're getting a podcast out every week here.
I'm telling you, I got the Get Down Christmas gift ready to go for the holiday party, because we're going to do a holiday party, I hope. I'm going to get you a Stream Deck. I'm going to get you all set up. And then this way, when you're ready to rock in 2025, we got the fire horns.
Yeah, once I move and set up the new studio, we can talk new gear. But until I move.
Yeah. Well, like I said, studio's always open for you guys here. I just got to get a second mic, and then you guys could really be a full podcast studio. A little conversation room I got over here. It could really be something.
I haven't been out there yet over by you.
I know. I just had Chachi just came over actually recently. I just had Zach Martino here. So, you know, I think I live for the impressions when they come in, because I'm so proud that I, built this studio. Especially like from all the panels and the lighting. And I love when people come in and they're just like, whoa, like this is not like, it looks like a real studio, Yeah. So I can't wait to get your guys' reactions when
do you feel like you're more you like get more work done, or you're more proactive because you have like a nice, well built out, fancy studio that you feel good in?
It's like it was always hard for me to like work in my own house because it's just right here always, and I think now, like, it makes me excited to come down here. Like, I'll sit, there's a couch behind me, usually where my wife and I watch TV now, because our baby sleeps upstairs, and I'll like just take a glance at it and be like, wow, that's mine, And then I'm really filling up my racks with hardware now. I just got an SSL compressor. I have this cool little visualizer over here. So the lighting, the mood, like everything, like it makes it fun to come down here, and it makes me feel creative. And that was the whole thing with, my basement and the studio in this house, was just to make it creative, make it a creative space. So when people come here, it's like, you can forget about what's going on out here and just kind of create in here. I think the biggest thing for me now that I'm learning is, we haven't talked since probably in about a year, and I just became a new dad. And I think that the hardest thing for me now is separating family life with work life, right? Because I'm always here in this studio. So I'm always looking to be like, oh, well, I'm bored. I could work now. I could just, go over here. But I have to separate that aspect from like, man, now it's time to, spend with my family. And I'm, still learning that as I'm going through this whole dad thing. But that's the biggest challenge for me now, is that.
It was something that we talked about a lot during COVID, because everybody was doing this work from home thing. And I think we talked about it in one of the podcast episodes, where it was like, create your workspace that is comfortable, that is going to energize you and keep you creative, especially in what we do. Because we pretty much everybody, like, everybody's pretty much producing from home, right? At this point, like, not people aren't buying studio time. So it's like, we'll create these spaces to stay creative and to stay on top of your game and stay motivated. I think that's the most important part. And then to your other point about keeping your family and work, trying to separate that. I mean, that's just going to come with time, right? Like it's such a hard thing to do when you do work from home, to understand like where the line needs to be drawn. Right. We talk about that. Like when Kareem and I try to vacation, it's like, well, where's the line? Like where am I vacationing and where am I
right,
working?
Because you guys know when you're vacationing, what are you doing? Like, I mean, we just went out to Cleveland. We took our first family trip, and it was for a wedding. It was for my wife's best friend's weddings, and they had gotten married. They were having a party, and we couldn't go to the party in Dallas because, my wife was, just 2 months postpartum. And the baby was too young to fly. So we actually went to the party in Cleveland, which was more of an intimate gathering, but we went and all that. My wife was the matron of honor, and we're on vacation, right? Like first vacation with the baby. And I have such a funny story because it's 5 a.m. flight, with the baby. And this is my first time like packing the stroller and the car seat and everything into the plane. And I looked up to my left and Clutch is on my flight. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? He's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like sweating at 5 a.m. getting out this flight. But the vacation became work because then I went out with Clutch to go see him play at John Boy. I also went to Forward with him for a drink to go see Bobby Boucher and all those guys. And I was out till 1:30 in the morning. Granted, my wife and my baby couldn't go out, but we're always working. We're always trying to see what's going on in those other markets. And, I think that in that aspect, it's okay for me because I've been doing that since I've met my wife and all that. But really the work-life balance at home is really where I'm trying to separate, because before it was like, oh, I'm just, I'm always with my wife. We live together. If she wants to watch a show by herself, that's fine. And now it's like, I end the studio. I tell everybody at 6:00 on the dot, I go upstairs, and my favorite part of the day now is bath time. I love giving my daughter a bath. It's like the most joyful time of the day because it's just so wholesome. You get to spend that 1-2 hours, and she's down at 7:30, and then we can go do the rest of our stuff. But it's separating that. You have to create those boundaries, and I think that's been pretty hard for me at the beginning, but I'm starting to get it now.
Yeah, you'll figure it out. I think that's good advice for anybody that even doesn't have a kid and is just trying to figure out a balance between their work and life. And even, if it's family or girlfriend or whatever it is, kids, like having that time where you're like, all right, the work day is over for me. I'm shutting my computer down, and like it's family time, or it's going out to dinner time or friend time or whatever. And like having that sort of hard cutoff was something that was really helpful for me when I was struggling with kind of just overwhelm and overwork. So I think that's good advice.
Yeah. It's tough being DJ dad out here, but it's the coolest thing ever. I love it.
So it's been a minute since you've been on, right? Dad life is a new thing.
Yeah.
You bought a house, right? You bought a house, you built a studio, new thing.
Yep.
But you also signed to 4 a.m.
I did.
So
I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about that, and what you got going on with 4 a.m.
Yeah, it's been really cool. Obviously Madison and Chachi have been in contact with, and I've been in contact with them for probably about a year now. And, right before this kid came into my life, back in January, we've always been trying to get lunch and this and have a meeting, but it's impossible with our schedules. And, Miami was coming up, and I was just like, guys, I'm going to be in Miami. Let's have a conversation before Miami and let's talk. And sure enough, we had a great conversation. And I think that one of the big things for me is that I was able to be in Miami while this was all transpiring, because I was looking for just someone to take over my bookings because I just don't have the time to do them anymore. I wanted a team to work with so I could bounce ideas off because, it was just me solo kind of. And in Miami, I was kind of able to be in my element, and Gary knows this far too well of how, good I am in Miami. But, we're walking around and I'm talking to this person, I'm talking to that person. And I think it was good for them to, kind of see what I had going on and like, oh, wow, this kid isn't just this New Jersey, DJ. He has some touch outside of this. We're in Miami and everyone is like, he knows who he is. People know who he is. And I think that really opened a door for me as far as 4 a.m. to the point where okay, maybe he is ready for an agency. He is ready. And I loved what Madison was doing with Mia Moretti specifically as far as an artist thing. And Scott has his hand in every, market that I've been wanting to play in. So I think besides that and the Beat Gig partnership, it really, really made sense for me to sign with them. And I think that they're really, really knowledgeable in some spaces that I really haven't paid attention to, mostly because I've just been far too busy running my school, producing and doing all that. And I really feel grateful to be a part of a team because my old team was based in Miami. So I never felt really connected with them. And now, they're right here in New York. So I played Azure. Madison was able to come out and support, which I thought was awesome. Chachi and I, he came to the studio. We've had dinners. It's just really great. And to have them be on the same page as me is just a blessing. So I'm super happy to be part of the team. I'm on a roster full of super talented people. We just talked about Clutch. I mean, one of the sickest DJs I know. Marty Rock, Rick, and everybody was so welcoming and inviting. Trey, and I just couldn't be more happy to be a part of something like that. So,
yeah, that's awesome. We love those guys, and they're good people and smart people, and just good people to have in this industry. So I'm happy for you. It's a good fit.
Thank you.
Great.
I'm excited to see where it goes. You know, we got a lot of shows coming up in the fall. We're working with a bunch of new venues, so I'm excited to see what unfolds and transpires.
Nice. So I want to talk a little bit about, travel. You said getting into certain markets and some traveling. I've been doing some more traveling lately. And I think one of the number one things that I hear, and I'm sure you hear from your students who are pursuing DJing, is how do I get out of my market, right? How do I book gigs elsewhere? I'm tired of playing in my market or whatever. So let's talk a little bit about how younger DJs and DJs who are on the come up can achieve that goal, because I think most people have a similar goal. They want to go play other places.
I mean, you talk to any DJ, they're gonna want to go play other places, right? But maybe I mentioned this on a pod before, maybe I haven't, but what I tell all of my students is be a big fish in a small pond, right? Unfortunately for us here in New Jersey, I mean, look how many upcoming talent you guys have. You guys have so many young guys, just to name a few, like Timo's and Two Face, and all these guys that are really doing their thing and coming up. But the problem is that there's so many big fish already in this pond, and now they're trying to become a big fish in a big pond. So location is a big thing to do with a lot of like kind of what's happening here. And it's very hard to make it, in a New York or New Jersey, because we're such a big pond, but being that big fish in a small pond is really key. How do you get to be that big fish? We'll probably touch upon that next naturally, but you have to be the biggest in your market, I think, or monopolize your market in a way where like people are always thinking of you first, and then they'll think of you in other markets. And I also think another huge thing that plays into this, and especially with me now, is relationships, right? So if you're new in your career, you're still making a lot of these relationships, talking to whoever you can just to get in with somewhere, right? And that's all great. And I would do that in the beginning and get into the biggest spots in your market. But you'll never know who you meet along the way, maybe in 5 years or 10 years, or maybe someone you met a year ago, 10 years forward, who will be able to do something for you, And I think that is something that's so overlooked. And that's something that takes time in time where everyone wants this quick success, right? So for example, like someone like me, like one of my old tour managers, his name is Max. I was like taking him on tour in 2015 when I was doing like Life in Colors, Arizona. I was just starting to get my little taste of touring with my old management. And, that was 2015. You think about that, that's 9 years later. He became the general manager of Sky in Salt Lake City like 2 or 3 years ago. And now it's funny because now there's an opportunity to work booking wise like that. So that relationship of me giving somebody a chance now blossomed into something that like where, wow, okay, if I'm still doing this and I'm still consistent, maybe I could go play that market now. And I think relationships has a whole lot to do with that. So I've been very big on holding my relationships and keeping them near and dear and close to me. And I think that's also what makes you a big fish, is that those big players in the game will know who you are and make you part of being that big fish. They give you the food chain, right? So if the food chain's handed to you, you're only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think that's really important to understand as well.
Patience has become overlooked in our industry, and it's not highlighted enough, and it's not taught, I think, enough or kind of preached enough to these younger DJs and younger artists. I had a couple conversations not too long ago, maybe about a month ago, with 2 younger DJs, and like, well, when did you start playing the better rooms like in our market? And I'm like, I don't know, when I was 30. Like, like it took a long time. Like it took a very, very long time, like for me to grow just as a DJ. And when I said that to a couple of these younger artists or younger DJs, they were shocked that like I had been DJing for 13 years until I played in one of the bigger rooms in our market. And it's like, just having that patience and understanding that not everything's going to happen overnight. Now that is going to happen for some people, 1,000%, where there will be some kind of overnight success where somebody's going like 0 to 100 within like a year's space. Yeah. But that's just not the most common way that things happen.
It's not. It's like that quote with the iceberg, right? It's like you only see the tip of the iceberg, but then underneath the water, it's like triple the size, and it's like years, patience, all the, the whole thing. And Yeah, have I seen little lucky success stories? Absolutely. I mean, that's so like one in a million though, but for every like one lucky success story, there's also 10 hard working guys or girls that are like, next in line. And it's just getting over that hump. And that hump may be, really hard for some people, but once you get over it and you roll down that hill and you're on the other side, it's like, okay, this isn't so bad after all. But it's putting in that time and that grind and all of those years into it. It doesn't just happen overnight like that. And I get students all the time too. Like they're like, well, at the end of the year, we do like a 1 year and 5 year goal thing. And I have guys telling me like in 1 year, they're like looking to, play out of market. And I'm like, well, this should be in your 5 year goal plan, not your 1 year goal plan, depending on where they are. Depending, some guys are really close to that where it is, but most of them are nowhere near close to that. They haven't put out a record. They haven't done really half of the work that, any of us in this podcast have done. And they have to realize that's a 5 year goal. That's on your 5 year plan. Well, 5 years. I don't have 5 years. Well, then this isn't for you. This game is all about the long ball. It's not about the short ball. It's the long ball, because if you stay persistent at this and you keep going, something's going to happen for you. But you have to stay persistent and consistent about this stuff. You can't do, hop the trends and do all this other stuff. You have to stay persistent.
Do you have any tricks of managing artist expectations? Like,
I really wouldn't call them tricks. I mean, if you ask me, I get a lot, and you know this, I get a lot of guys that just ask me for advice, and I just keep it real with them. Like I tell them like, no, that's not happening. Like, it's just not, because I think for me, I took the longest on how to do this out of anybody that I know. I have guys and friends that I came up with who are already playing main stage, doing this, doing that, like all these things. And I thought that there was always this one path to success. Like, oh, if I follow in this path, it's going to happen. Well, I did that and nothing happened. Then I tried something else and nothing happened. So I think I took the longest out of anybody that did that. But along the way, I think that's really where the gold is for me, because I also have so much more experience that like when that opportunity comes, I'll be ready for it, And I think a lot of the times you see these DJs who maybe come up and get this success, overnight success, whatever you want to call it, but they weren't ready for it. And because they weren't ready for it, it's like a shaky glass where, okay, one wrong move could just destroy their entire career. Then they can't pick it back up. Where for me, I've had all this long success already. So when that opportunity comes, I'm ready for it. I can do it the proper way. And I have all this information. But as far as like the tricks, I think the trick is just being real, just being realistic about what's happening in this industry and what your expectations are. Like if you tell me you want to play Ultra in a year, but you're complaining about not doing TikToks or Reel, well then move aside, brother, because there are 15,000 other DJs that are doing that are willing to do that work and sweep it up, So it's just realizing what your expectations are and being realistic about them. And I think that's where I come in, is I'm able to level head some people, because, everyone has these big goals and dreams and all this stuff, but level heading a lot of these guys, I think, is really where, I step in, and I need it myself too. And I think that's kind of where, Chachi and Madison kind of come into play in my career now, is they can kind of level head me and be like, okay, maybe this isn't right, but do this, this, and this, and then maybe you can get there. So having someone in your corner like that's important.
Yeah. You gotta have realistic goals. I had a conversation with one of our DJs last night, and we were talking about sort of just this thing, like how many gigs should I look to be booking next year out of state? And like, he was like, well, I think every other month or every month. And I'm like, well, why don't we start with once a quarter? And like, let's hit that goal first,
Yeah.
Let's not put all this pressure on yourself that you have to be out of state every single month. And it's like, let's get once a quarter first. And then if you get every other month, you exceeded that goal, and you're going to feel way better about exceeding that goal than not hitting it,
Yeah.
So I think that's that. And then the other thing is, everybody's path is different. There's not one way to get to the end goal, and everybody's end goal could be different, but your path is different than my path. It's different than Gary's path. That's different from every other DJ on our roster. And that's okay. And I think that's what's the beauty of being in this world, is there's a lot of ways to become successful, right? Like, this Get Down thing was not something me and Gary ever thought we were going to start. I'm sure Ferrari Production Academy, you never thought it was going to get to the level that it got to. But it's like these these side quests that you take on that actually really do help you get to the end goal, because it helps create a name for you in the market and in the industry. It helps show your expertise in what you're
Yeah.
doing. And all of those things are important in getting you to where you want to go. So guys, don't get frustrated, because if you're watching one of your friends do something that you want to do or move faster than you, it's okay. Like, your career can be a very long career. It doesn't have to happen in 1 or 2 years. It can happen in 10 years, and that's okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
Cream,
for sure.
Cream, you could speak to this better than anybody, especially right now, where like you're traveling. Your travel gigs started off at a slow pace, and now it's like you're traveling every weekend or every other weekend at the very least. Like, and it took a long time to get that snowball rolling down the hill. But like right now, you have some very, very good momentum. So I think you could probably speak to the patient side of this, probably the best of anybody I know.
Yeah, I think I was lucky in the fact that I blew up pretty quick when I first started. But then, like, I sort of hit a roadblock where I was sort of stuck in certain venues, and I was content doing certain things, like the DJs of the world that we talk about all the time and some of the other better venues in Jersey. And I sort of lost sight of the big goal, right? Maybe I needed to go do some more networking. I needed to take a night off to go meet or link with certain people in bigger venues, instead of just being content being one of the bigger fish in this local pond kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yes, in a long way around this, my patience was super important. I also sort of got away from doing some of the things I needed to do to continue to grow. But it's okay, right? Like, I'm now at a point where, yes, the snowball is rolling down the hill and it's great, and I'm achieving some of the things that I want to achieve, but I've been doing this since 2011 or whatever. Like, it's not been a quick journey, you know?
No, it's always going to take time. I mean, any one of these guys that you think blew up, like a John Summit or, a James Hype, like you could really look at James Hype, for example, and I love bringing him up to my students because he's a great example of kind of what we all strive to be, right? And I did this too. I mean, I've always had my eye in the big picture, which was a big room EDM DJ. Like, that's always been my big thing. As I was producing music as much as I possibly could, I also needed to make money, right? And that's where I fell into the open format space with the bar gigs and all of these gigs. And did I feel content in there for a while? Yes, because I did lose sight of the picture. And it's very easy to lose sight of the picture because it's easy. You're fun. You're drinking with your friends every weekend. You're making money like you can't believe. Like, it's you're playing whatever you want. It's all good. But I knew, like, Monday through Thursday I had to produce music, or even Friday I did produce music, and I did. And I used that as a way to pay my bills. I'd only have to work 2 days during the week, and it was at night. And then during the week I could make my music. Okay, great. I lost sight of that for a while. And then after COVID hit, that was the biggest thing for me. Like, that opened my eyes. I was like, okay, this isn't sustainable, because you could lose everything like that, like right off the bat. So what did I have to do to adjust? Well, I started the Ferrari Production Academy. I get travel gigs from the Ferrari Production Academy. People are like, well, how the hell do you tour off Ferrari Production Academy? Very simple. I make relationships with people through work I do in the Ferrari Production Academy, and I am able to get gigs from that. Whether I make an artist radio show, that artist owns a club, boom, they'll book me at that club, right? Whatever it may be. So that is one way I'm able to use one of my skills as an asset to obtain, maybe another gig outside of my market. But the biggest thing for me, we go back to James Hype, was he had a really dope interview with DJ Spider, and I always go back and I watch this interview, but he talks about his story about how he was doing what we were doing, making money, playing open format rooms, doing all this stuff, until he realized, like, if you want to be, he said, if I want to be about house music, I need to stop, potentially playing the gigs that don't matter to me anymore. Yes, I'm going to lose a little bit of money in my pocket, but when I was ready to take that next step, I'm not telling you to do that today. When you're ready to take that next step, stop that stuff, right? And then only play the gigs that matter to you, and make the music, play the gigs that coincide with that music, and you're going to see success really, really fast. And I think your podcast about the open format room dying is like segueing into this, like, completely right, because he mentions a quote from Eminem, and it's if you stand for everything, then you don't stand for nothing, or something like that, right? And it's true. Like, if you want to be about house music, but you're playing Bad Bunny rooms every night, well, who's going to want to pay to go buy a ticket to go see you? So I think that's another way that you could really, leverage yourself in these markets, is just be about one thing. And you could take a look at guys like Rick Wonder, who made an adjustment, right? And you guys talked about Rick on the podcast last night, where Rick is an incredible open format DJ, but right now he wanted to buckle down and focus on his career. So he goes into the house music space. Awesome. If you guys can take that into account, I think you're going to go far.
It's funny, Mikey, like you gave up venues and you gave up booking power and you gave up playing certain places. And I feel like at that point, your career went bigger, faster,
But it was because it was ready for that. I was ready for that. Like I had a couple big records on Revealed, Mix Mash, Relationships with Laid Back Luke, all that stuff. I had a record coming out on Smash the House, Dimitri Vegas, and like Mike's label. Like I was ready. I knew I was ready, and it was like, okay, it's time to let go. I'm trying to think of the movie where they were like, let go, and then they let go, and like, everything good happens. But like that's what it was for me. It was like, this was the time to let go. And I needed that like advice from my wife and people in my circle to be like, all right, dude, it's time, do it. And everything started falling into place after that. And now, it's like, I only DJ maybe 2-3 times a month. They're not really locally anymore. They're in other markets or the biggest markets here locally. And I make my money and it's all good and grand. And, I'm not known as that open format guy anymore. I'm known as like, this is a DJ. This is an artist. He does this, this, and this. And I that's always been my goal. That's always been my thing for me.
Back to what we were saying before, like you need those people in your circle. You're right, to tell you, all right, it's time to move on. Like Kareem and I would always talk, like, what is Mikey doing still over at this one bar that you were booking the DJs at? We're like, he's got to stop. Like there's really no reason for him to be involved over there. It just doesn't fit with what he's doing.
Yeah, COVID was the biggest blessing with that, because that opened my eyes to this is what could be, and you got to do something different. And everybody reevaluated their career in that time, where it was like, this isn't sustainable because these owners can drop you like a fly, and they didn't hire us back, I think, for, what was it, like a year? So for a year we were out of work. And then when we did get back to work, the rate was cut in half. And it's like, dude, no, like I'm not this, push away DJ. You got the wrong guy here, right. And that's when I had to separate myself from that whole thing.
Yeah.
Crazy time.
I will say this, though, like each of us and a lot of the other DJs who are traveling, who are playing some of the best places, they all have something else, right, that helps grow their relationships and their network. You have the Academy. We have the podcast and Get Down. Chachi has his agency. Rick has his graphic design business.
Yeah.
Kazes has his radio show and he brings people on. So like, if you guys are sitting at home and saying, well, I want to go and travel and I'm playing some of my best places. Well, maybe you need to do something else that could connect you to some DJs and artists outside of your own market or outside of your own region. Like the Cream edit packs. I've connected with some of my favorite art, like remixers and editors across the country. And like, it's opened some doors for me just from doing the edit packs kind of thing. Remixes, if you're making music, hey, find an artist that's making a similar style sound that's in another market or maybe has a little bigger audience than you. And like, that's a way to grow. So we talked about the relationships, and none of us would be where we are if we were just DJs or just producers in our market.
Yeah, those other skills you just mentioned create like a monopoly or not a monopoly, but they create like another skill for you to have that eventually will put you above everybody else. Because I always bring this example to a lot of the guys when they ask me about producing, right? They're like, oh, well, I want to get into producing and, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's all cool. I say, take this room that we're in right now. Let's call it a Get Down meetup or, the Wicked Wolf event, right? I say, if I got on the mic right now and I said to everybody, all right, guys, raise your hand if you make mashups and edits. The entire room would go like this, right? Okay. Now, everybody, raise your hand if you produce music. Now, only a fourth of the hands will go up. All right, everybody. Now, raise your hands if you play the keytar while you DJ. One hand goes up, right? Now, I'm more interested as a coach and just someone that's interested in music to talk to that one guy that's, what? You play the keytar while you DJ? I want to talk to you and learn more about you. I already know about the mashups and the edits and stuff like that. All these things that we have are things that can't be duplicated really by other DJs, you know, whether you're the top editor in your market or, you know, the guy that plays the guitar or the guy that does the producing stuff, right? Like if you have these skills, you're going to stand out more and people are going to think about you more as somebody that has something else to offer because anybody can now go up there, DJ, especially with the AI stuff, even make edits and mashups now. Like anybody can do it. So if you're not doing something different, then you can't expect to do something different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you have to find a way to stand out from the crowd. And you can do that many ways, right? There's a lot of ways you could do it. The keytar is the most unique way.
Shout out to
probably.
Joyfire. I mean, that took such a long, and Joyfire is one of my students. He's been one of my longest students. It took such a long time for us to figure that out. Like, dude, I had no idea he even played the keytar for like 2 years. And then he's like, well, I play the keytar. What? You should be ripping that during your sets, you know? Now, granted, the rooms we have here don't necessarily, you know, work. You can't do that really in a bar. I mean, you could, but like it's not going to work at that.
Right,
like
you need
he
to be
needs
on a
to get
stage
on
to do
those
that.
stages like he did the Paramount Theater, I think. And he was doing it and it looked like a freaking rock show, you know? Like, and
Yeah,
he's
it
doing
looked crazy.
solos. He's doing solos in EDM. Like what? Like the only person I just recently heard do that was Mau P, and he had Mike Dean on that On Again song do a solo at the end, which I thought was so sick. Like he just rips the synths. But besides him and Mau P, I don't know anybody that does solos in EDM. So that's something that immediately nobody else can replicate, at least in my opinion. Nobody in the room out of 100 people, only one person can do that. And that's going to, you know, maybe not right now. Maybe now's not the time for that. But I see maybe electronic music going into a space when it becomes oversaturated where there's going to become like electronic musicians again, like your Pendulums and like these guys who go on stage and actually, you know, Rufus Du Sol, I think does that, like that put on shows. And yeah, maybe now's not right the time for him, but if he's persistent with that and he stays with that, I think that there's an opportunity for that market in 5 or 10 years, but he's got to be persistent about it, you know? And I think what he's doing is completely unreplicatable.
It is such a unique space. Like even the live artists that the guys that got away from DJing and then they just do live sets, like that's kind of very niche, but it's we haven't really ever seen that in EDM, have we? We've seen it in techno, you've seen it in
Fred
like
again,
house,
right?
Yeah.
Like he's doing live sets, so like, you know, that was refreshing people. Like, and then it's always like, you know, there was this whole debate about Fred again just recently because he made one of his recent records with 4 splice loops. It was like boom, 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 boom record. It's kind of like that Sabrina Carpenter record Espresso, right? Where like Oliver, great producer, sample pack maker. Espresso is literally a guitar loop and an Oliver drum loop. And I think the producer put those loops together and then maybe played guitar over it. Entire record was made and Oliver gets like no credit. But in my opinion, he should be getting a piece of that record because he did, you know, the actual production work. But when it comes to going back, sorry, I got a little bit off topic, but going back to Fred again, you know, people don't care about that splice putting together of this stuff. They care about the live aspect because that's something that nobody's doing. To see him, I mean, besides Arab Music, who is going out there on an MPC pad drumming and doing all the stuff, right? Like that's what people are paying to see. They're not, you know, paying to see him in the studio putting together splice loops. Yeah. So the live aspect of it is really important, I think. And it's going to be the future, I think, in a little bit.
Well, we've gotten to a point where like talent hasn't mattered as much, right? Like the TikTok era and the social media era. So now it's nice to see some of these other artists that do have James Hype and Fred again, and some of the other artists that are bringing this live musical aspect. It's like, no, hey guys, like you still need a lot of talent to be super successful in this world. And,
for sure.
And hopefully we're moving back in that direction.
Yeah, I would love to see it move back in that direction. I think right now it's been a little, you know, weird because, you know, the economy is a little bit weird. People aren't going out as much and bookers just are booking people that can sell tickets and want to fill the room. And I think that directly affects us in a way. And, you know, they're booking these, you know, I guess social media influencers that, you know, have a lot of followers or whatever it is. Maybe they want to get into DJing. I don't care about it in that aspect. Like, But at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, those guys are going to, fill the room and pack the room, even if it's only for a short-term success
Well,
or
that's what it is. It's a short-term outlook. It's not a long-term what's best for our
exactly,
industry type.
exactly. And there's ebbs and flows. So you can't, you could sit there and complain and be like, oh, this is happening, or, sit back, work on your other skills that you have and, build that up so that you get back up there and get back up to the thought process or the booker's thinking process and get back into those rooms.
Part of this, younger DJs are seeing the success of some of these people and how fast they move, how quickly they can come up, and they start making artists 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 per show. And I think that gives some of the younger DJs, not just our DJs in our market, but all over the place, this idea that this is how it works. You can move quick, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a false reality. And you still need to do all the different things we just talked about as far as the networking and the music and growing your own skills to really be successful, because one in whatever, a million or whatever the number is, are going to have this quick success. And many times all the people that do have quick success, they have a fan base that's built in already, and they're just moving into the DJ space because it's the cool thing to do, or it's a side project that they want to work on.
Yeah. I mean,
you got 1 million followers. If you got 1 million followers, yeah, maybe you can make the quick path. But
for sure,
I'm guessing nobody listening to this show has 1 million followers on social media.
For sure. And are they even really listening to the artist? They're going to see that artist or, somebody like that. Because I look at it back at like, kind of the early days of Pauly D. I mean, Pauly D's been DJing forever, gets on a TV show. He's going to obviously exploit his DJing thing. He's not a new DJ that, I would say,
no, he was
just started.
DJ.
He's been DJing forever. Exactly.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, he was getting booked based on the TV show. Let's call a spade a spade. I mean, it is what it is. But the amount of years that have went by, and Pauly D is still one of the top selling out DJs still, is unbelievable. So that, like, there is that, I guess, way where you could have that longevity or whatever, but it's because he's been doing it already for so long. He used his platform to enhance his other business, and he's still selling out markets everywhere. I think somebody told me that, like, John Schwartz was like, I'll always book 2 DJs at Tao Group. He was like Tiesto and Pauly D, because he sells out the rooms like crazy, both of them. But it's insane.
Good for him. I don't know. I think the takeaway here in this conversation for me, with going back to, how do young DJs get out of the market kind of thing, you still have to put in the work, right? You still have to have the resume, and you can move quickly, sure, but until people are knocking on your door like, Kareem, we have to have you in our venue, and Kareem, we need you in this venue, and you, like, unless people are doing that, you're definitely not ready to even consider going out of market. You have to be the top 1, 2, 3 guy in the market, where venues will pay you whatever you want. They're, they'll bend the rules to get you in the room. They don't care if you're playing at the competition, because they want you here. Until that's happening, I don't think you can even consider trying to tackle a new market.
Yeah, 100%.
And our market's tough. There aren't a ton of rooms, right? We just talked about, if you want to make house music, you want to play house music, you got to play those rooms. Well, what rooms are here? There are very, very few here that do that.
And you guys made a great point last week on the pod where, these rooms are now shifting towards like the genre specific stuff, right? Like, I know you guys started what was it, the Latin night at Birch or Bad Bunny night or whatever it is, and that's been crushing, right?
Yeah.
Like crushing. So it's weird too, because I was listening to that pod last week, and I come from a time where we had teen nights, and like, let's take Club Abyss, for example, right? So upstairs, the main floor, we used to call it, was house, EDM. Well, it wasn't even EDM back then.
Club Abyss, big Jersey spot, doesn't exist anymore. Like central,
they
South
just started
Jersey
knocking
area.
it down like yesterday, which is like so sad to see. But like, that main legendary room, I mean, the history in that room is insane. But it was that room, and Deco across the street, same owners, by the way, had a similar format. But that room was house, dance, whatever. Then you had the basement room, and that was the hip hop, Jersey club, everything. So we had separate rooms for these genres. And it's funny that, like, we talked about things coming in cycles. That's starting to come back, where either a certain room is going to be based on that genre, and it's not, open format. I'm going to play 18 genres in one night. No, you're coming for this night, this is what the music format is, so that people are invested more in the party. I think that's
I couldn't believe in that more, right? Like, I'm so behind that idea right now for success in our industry. I'm just like,
it's going to make it easier for us too. I mean, there's going to be less play Bad Bunny or play, whatever signs. I mean, it'll probably always still happen, but at least you could be like, nah, this is a house music party,
It's
or
not
like
Bad Bunny right now. It's Charlie XCX.
Charlie. I know, that's what I hear. I just haven't been out on the road to experience.
That's the vibe right now.
I don't mind that though. There's a couple of my students shout out to Olive Oil. They just made a really dope, Guess remix. So there are some songs where I'm like, yeah, you should probably be playing that.
It's good. It's like good housey electro vibes.
It's like UK garage stuff. Like, it's really cool, some of the records. So I like it.
I called it electro pop. That was like what I called her genre.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. So we talked a lot about the travel stuff and whatever, but you coach a lot of DJs and you talk to a lot of DJs and producers. Do you think someone just innately has the ability to be really successful and to grow quickly, or do you think that DJs and producers can be coached up to become this thing? Like, do you just have the juice or you don't? Can you learn how to have the juice? Like, it's
very rare. Some guys have the juice. Some guys don't have the juice. But can you be coached up to have the juice? Absolutely. I'm a guy where you could take me as an example. I don't have any musical talents, at least in my opinion, right? Like, I just I don't have anybody in my family, and you got to think about how big my family is. My dad is one of 11 people. We have one other musician in the family, and that's my aunt, who's my dad's sister's husband, right? Like, he's the only other musician. Other than that, there's no musicians in my family, nothing. So I'm not born out of musical genius. I just believe in hard work, right? They always say, what's that phrase? Talent,
hard work
always
talent
beats
when
talent
doesn't work hard.
Exactly. Like, all I could do is just be really good at what I can do. And a coach or a mentor will help you get to the best of your ability. I mean, think about like your baseball coaches, right? Or your football coaches. They helped many people unlock their highest potential. You take a look at, I grew up in a town next to Kyrie Irving, right? And Kyrie Irving was, playing football with us on our front lawn. I had a friend that used to take him on our front lawn and stuff. He was a decent athlete, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't anything special. But it wasn't until he had that, I think, his one coach who brought out that potential in him for him to go on and become this absolute superstar basketball player. So I think right now when we're coaching a lot of these guys, like, we didn't get to have that. And I think that was the biggest thing. Like, at least for me, I didn't have somebody in my corner telling me, do this, or you should do it like this, or somebody with experience, really. Like, I had my mentors, sure, but like, they weren't so accessible as we
and
are.
not as hands-on, for sure.
Exactly. And passionate about caring for like the absolute best, because if those guys do good, well, that's a success that you could celebrate because you help them get to where they are, right? Like, we always bring him back up. You take a look at like an Angelo the Kid, right? Like, someone who had the juice. I saw that he had the juice. I remember turning to you and saying, this kid's got the juice, but now let's bring out the full potential in this guy by getting him in the studio and making his own music. And then, the rest is kind of history from him. He's now good to go off into the world. He's got the skills that he needs. So yeah, you can have the juice, but if you don't have it, don't get discouraged. You could always look up to a mentor to help bring out that potential in you. And I think that's like such a big thing in today's world where there's so many coaches and this and that. Find the right coach, find someone that truly cares and believes in you, and work with them to get that juice out and be the top of your game.
Yeah. Gary, you're a coach and teacher. What are your thoughts on this?
So many. I mean, I've dealt with so many different personalities. We've talked about this, and it all becomes very individual, right? And you also need coaches that understand who you are as a whether it be a player or a producer or even a DJ. And you have to understand how to you have to find a coach that can bring out the best in what you do personally. You can match up with wrong mentors and wrong coaches. That can happen, for sure. And you just have to understand, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses, and who can bring the best out of your weaknesses. I think that's a big portion of being a good teacher, being a good coach as well. I think that's something that I don't know, I think I can lose sight of sometimes with some of the guys. You expect a lot out of them because you expect them to grow at such a pace or understand where you're coming from. And it's like, well, you sometimes have to step back and check yourself as a coach and a mentor and understand what these people need from you, and that it's not a overarching one thing, right? You have to be able to adapt and understand what people need from you, and that's what
It's
makes
very
you kind of a good coach.
individualized.
It's
Like,
very
I think that was the
individualized.
biggest thing that you said. Like, I always bring up the quote, you could bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, you know? So, like, I'm giving you this plate of food right here, eat the plate. Some people don't want to eat that plate, right? And that's not a reflection of you or I as a teacher. It's just individualized in the sense that this is maybe not what the student needs. Maybe they don't like that plate of food. Maybe they don't want water. Maybe they want a glass of Gatorade. I don't know. And you have to kind of recognize that and see what their goals are and what they need. But that's why we always have these conversations about, well, what are your goals are? Maybe I can't help you achieve your goals. Like, if you want to be the biggest dubstep producer, like, yeah, I can make dubstep, but I'm not knowledgeable in that space to make you that way. So maybe go see another coach. And, you know, that happens for sure. But yeah, it's very individualized. Everyone's different. And, you know, and like we said before, there's not one path to do it. So
There's also not one way to get the point across to the students too. And I think for us, like, just because we want to give feedback or try to help someone in a certain way doesn't necessarily mean they're apt to take feedback in that way, you know?
yeah,
It's not only understanding where the student is as far as level and like where they're trying to go, but it's also how to get that information across. Sometimes you got to be hard on people, right? But people might not react to that. So maybe sometimes you have to be a little more, you know, a little safer, a little quieter on how you give negative feedback, let's say, or you give some harsh critique on a song or whatever.
for sure. And I'm my own worst enemy for that because I'm always giving it hard and real. But, you know, I think about more so now, well, this isn't about me. It's about them and how they need to receive it, you know, and I'm my own worst critic because I wish I had somebody that did that for me. I really wish, and I still do. Like, I love the fact now that I do have people in my corner be like, hey man, this sucks, you know, and you should, or this is wrong and you should be doing it this way. And you could take it on the chin and keep doing it the way you want to do it. If you truly believe in it, then keep doing it the way you want to do it. But if someone with more experience is like, hey, this stinks, you should do it like this. Okay, take it with a grain of salt and, you know, incorporate that maybe a little bit or all of it, but it's going to help you in some way. And you need to have somebody that can give it to you like that, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't think.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Gary. Sorry.
You're all good. I learned this at a very young age. I was 21 years old coaching high school basketball, and I had my best player on my team. Like I was pretty like a hard ass coach. I'd yell a lot, and you know it was just like a little tough. And then my best player on my team, every time I yell at him, he'd shut down.
Yeah.
And like I had got, you know, and I went to my dad, lifelong coach, and we talked about it, and he's like, well, maybe try a different approach with him, maybe. And like then it looked like he was getting the special treatment. He's the best kid on the team. I wouldn't yell at him as much, but the kid wouldn't shut down. You wound up, having an excellent year after realizing that very thing that we talked about. That things need to be individualized. Things need to be not everybody reacts the same to a harsh criticism, saying, you know, hey, that track sucks. Go back to the, you know, go back to the drawing board and come back with something completely different. Like maybe that person needs a little more coddling, you know. And I know that's kind of a negative word to use, but that's realistic. Like some people need that. And
For sure.
And I think that especially people that are older in our age that went through this very harsh, you know, our coaches and teachers growing up were definitely a lot more harsh than the teachers and the coaches of today, for sure.
Well,
and
we're
you
not
have to
getting
be
basketballs thrown at us like, you know, Mike Rice did when I was in college. I mean,
there's so many things that have happened in my sport career that, like, if they happened today, people would be arrested and
straight
canceled.
lawsuits.
And
yeah. I mean,
But-
thankfully for me, my father was always, you know, my coach, and he was always like the coach that everybody loved because he didn't yell. I guess I kind of take that with a, you know, a good like sense of like, oh, that's a little bit like me. I don't yell, but also my dad was real. Like he says it to me like all the time, like you're not doing this right. And there are times where I take after my dad and my wife hates it because my dad would sit with other baseball players. If they weren't excelling in something, well, he would take time to sit with them after practice and keep working on that skill. That's like what I do in the lessons. Like if you're not getting it, I'm going to take that extra 15, 20, 30 minutes at the end with for no charge to make sure that you get it and that you understand it. Because it's important to me that you understand it. It's not just I'm doing this because, oh, it's a money grab, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm passionate about this and I want you to understand it so that you can excel.
Yeah, like we feel good when you guys or our students or our team succeeds. Like that's the best feeling, you know?
It's amazing. Like our businesses run on your guys' success. Everybody wins. That's why this is such a great thing that we do here as like coaches, is because you win, we win, everybody's happy, everybody wins. When you're down, we're down, and we need to figure out a solution to get you back up. So, you know, I take on a lot of my students' emotions. If my student's having like a bad time, well, I take that on me. That's like a personal reflection of me because I'm not doing enough to get him or her to, you know, where they need to be. So,
yeah, if you're listening to this, like most markets don't have a Ferrari Production Academy and a Get Down DJ group in the same place, if anything at all. So it's so important to have that one person that you can go and talk to and bounce ideas off and have a mentor, someone that's in the places that you want to play or making the music that you want to play. And like, go find one of those people. It's easy. Like, just hit them up. Go support them at their shows. Bring them a coffee. Buy them a drink. Like, just get to know those people on a personal level. And once you do that, you can ask a question. Hey, can I pick your brain for 10 minutes after your show? Can I take you to lunch? Can I buy you coffee? And like, that stuff is so valuable. When you have that person and you have someone that you could bounce ideas off and say, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, is this a good idea? Hey, should I take this booking? You're going to grow faster. I guarantee you. So
Max.
If you don't have one of those people, go find one. Super important. Like, I still need that person, you know? I still need somebody to bounce ideas off.
We all do. We all do.
Do.
You know, and especially with music, like, you know, music is such a personal thing when you're creating music that, you know, everything you make is like, oh, this is great. Like, you know, whatever, like this could be no harm. And you need that person to check you and be like, this is good. It can be great by doing this, this, and this. And this is something that, like, if you guys, you know, haven't heard this podcast yet, there's a great one with Afrojack for all the music producers out there with these guys, Excellent Sound. And he talks about a lot, like, yeah, you know, this is good, but it could be great, you know? And it's not that like we're trying to nitpick these things about your production. It could just be better. And you need someone to tell you that, you know, that gives you realistic feedback. And keep those people, hug them, keep them in your circle. Like, you need people like that to be real and tell you that this isn't good, change it and make it better.
Yeah, be open to take that feedback, guys. Don't shut down.
Yeah. Don't take it as an offense either. There's so many times where I give feedback and I'm like, yep, this isn't good. And people get offended. And it's like, well, that's what music is. If you get offended by someone not liking someone or something, you're in the wrong business, right? Like, anything that relates to an art form is opinionated. Because I say it's not good doesn't mean there's someone out there that loves it. And it could be their favorite song in the world. So that's my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt and just keep moving on. Don't get disheartened. Don't get all, you know, in your feelings and in your bag and all that stuff. Like, you take it and you move on.
I think the other thing too is, just because someone's giving you feedback doesn't mean you have to take it. If you think your track is amazing or your project that you're working on is amazing and you believe in it, go with it. Like,
prove me wrong.
Yeah,
Prove
don't
me
let
wrong.
someone else tell you that just because their ear says one thing that like your ear is wrong. So I'll fight you on that one too. Like, but if you believe in it and you think it's good, go with it. You know,
Yeah.
Don't let someone on the internet who shot you a DM like, yo, this track sucks. Like, don't let that person steer you off of your path either.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you're in the wrong business if you're going to take comments and criticism like that to heart, you know? Like, it was the same thing with like fashion, right? Like, every time I go out and I wear, like, right now, like, not right now, but baggy pants have been in. And, you know, I'm like this 5'8" guy, whatever. Like, I'm not, you know, 160 pounds, athletic build. And I'm walking out in these, like, to these events in these baggy ass pants and like the shirt. And I love it. I think I'm fucking fly. I'm wearing, like, you know, the stuff. And the first thing somebody goes, like, with skinny jeans on still, it's like skinny jeans. And they're coming up to me like, dude, those pants, like, what are you doing, man? Those are, all right, you just wait. Now, you know, the trend now is everybody's wearing the baggy pants. And like, it's like, Well, I've been on that. I'm on the next thing now. I'm on the next wave, you know?
Sneakers.
So
You got your Asics or what? Are you on
the
the wave?
Asics are rocking. The New Balance is rocking. We're in the dad comfort era now, you know? Like this is these trends. It's like with music, they come and they go. What's the next thing? I don't know. But right now, it's the baggy pants and the Asics. Like that's what it is. And you know, I don't let anybody tell me what I should or shouldn't wear. Like when I was growing up, being a Guido wasn't cool before Jersey Shore was on. So, you know, little Italian Mikey was going to middle school in Ed Hardy and True Religion jeans and white Air Forces and Armani Exchange. And I would have kids be like, yo, that's whack. That's whack. You know what I'm saying? You're a Guido. And then guess what happened? Jersey Shore came out and these same kids were now going to the clubs. They were wearing Ed Hardy and now it's cool. So don't follow that stuff. Be you. I think being unique is the one thing that nobody can take away from you. So be yourself, be unique. And if there's going to be people out there that gravitate to you for that, don't follow those trends. Just because someone's doing something doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it. Just do what you want to do.
You brought up like musical trends. Where is the Ferrari brand at right now? I know you released some music recently. I know you have a couple tracks.
I'm getting back on my horse. I'm having a lot of fun, like just exploring other genres. I think like for me, I had to put a big pause on the music because, which is unfortunate, but you know, life happens. There's a baby, there's a house. There's just like a lot of the Ferrari Production Academy. I'm working on a lot of other people's music. So I put my career in the back burner and now we're, you know, kind of reviving that with like a new sound. And I've been really loving like the melodic techno type of stuff, you know, like, or really combining trance influences with techno, because I think now the big room EDM sound has kind of transformed into like a more techno sound. And I'm loving taking like trance and almost stuff that I kind of grew up on, like early 2000s, like late 90s stuff, influencing that back into it. Like, it's funny, I'm going back into like some of the first sounds that like Nexus VST came out with, like when they first came out, because those sounds are back in again, you know? So I'm liking reviving some of my favorite records now with that new modern twist. And I'm really loving the melodic techno stuff because there's emotion to it. There's like chords, there's like cool arpeggios and melodic stuff going on. So I'm really having fun with that. And dude, to be completely honest, I don't give a fuck about a label or, you know, what's happening. I'm just having fun making music, putting it out, and then that's it. I'm not looking to sign to this label or do this. I don't really give a shit about that stuff right now. I'm just having fun. I don't care about the stream numbers or anything. Just put it out.
I love to hear that because I feel like that's when artists make their best music, when they're just making the stuff that they want to make. And
yeah,
you know, when I played Azure, I grabbed your Sun and Moon remix because like it just fit. Like I love that vocal, and like it was just cool to it was cool to play that song because I connected to it from when I first started DJing, and like it was one of your tracks, which I love supporting our guys, so I thought it was a dope remix. I just really liked it.
I made that record for my show at Azure Day Party because I was like thinking about all of the sunset or feel good tracks that I could play, and like I was thinking of like Strobe and like that and like all these, and I incorporated those all into my set for that show. And that was like one of the highlights of the summer for me, really, was doing that because I had this like different approach. Like I wasn't having to look for records that I necessarily had to play because they were popular. I just played what I wanted to play. And I think that was like the biggest thing. And it was about getting the crowd to vibe with what you were wanting to play. And that crowd there is so receptive of like all that stuff. And it was just amazing. I'm sure you probably had the same experience.
Yeah. Like Strobe, I made a Strobe edit. That was one of the first tracks I played.
Yeah. I actually revived an old one from back in the day. Like I took the Cream remix of Strobe and I put Linkin Park Shadow of the Day acapella over it with the new Cream remix because it says the sun will set for you. And I played that at sunset and the drone was going and it was like top 5 moment of the set. Like it was amazing.
I think we all need to find the parties where we can play what we want, right? We don't have a whole lot of those here.
No.
And I'm sort of making it my mission after playing that party to create something that allows DJs to play whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah, I mean, Gary is fortunate because he gets the music that he likes, he gets to play in those spaces, like the disco house and like, the drag stuff. He's fortunate because he does have the rooms, but like, those rooms for us here really don't exist. It's very heavily open format based because, one group wants hip hop, one group wants this, then you switch it, you make that group, upset. So it's good when people are going to the party because they're going for the party. They're not going for, I'm just going out to have a good time and I want to listen to X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So
cool. Do we want to? Is this a wrap point here?
Yeah, I think we're a little over an hour in here, just to give you guys a little timestamp.
I know Ferrari's got
things to
Ferrari
do.
Production Academy stuff to do here.
It's time to attend business, my friends. We could talk all day, but
no, this was
duty calls.
Good. I think this is like this is therapy for us as much. Hopefully you guys take something away from our conversations with Ferrari, but I take something away from every one of these conversations we have, and that's why I like having him on the show because.
Well, you think about these things and you don't get to talk about it as much. And I think when you talk about it, you start to realize, oh, this is actually going on, or let me do this, or there's a new way to think about it. Like I love talking about this, and I tend to ramble on a lot too, because I'm passionate about it. This is what my passion is, and it's so important to have that passion about this industry or anything that you do because you love it and you want the best for it. So, everyone I think in this podcast has the passion for it. And that's why, it's so fun to do these things.
Yeah, man.
So
I agree. Anything else you want to promo? Do you want a Ferrari Production Academy, new music?
Website's up, I think, since the last time we talked. So it's nice. www.Ferrari, P-U-R-A-R-I, prod, P-R-O-D, academy.com. Website's up. If you guys, want to buy a course or just inquire about information about how I can help you guys, you can hit the website. And hopefully I'll see you guys in the lessons and,
Yeah. If you're a DJ and you're looking to take a step forward and start making music, go work with Mikey. Believe me, Mikey's helped me a lot. He's helped a ton of our DJs. Not only is he an amazing producer and produces amazing music, but he's a great teacher. And I think it's very hard to find somebody that does both well. So go check out the website. Grab a course. Go grab like a quick whatever's up there. Grab a course first, and then you can move into working with Mikey one-on-one. I think that would be the easiest way.
New course probably coming out September once the fall kind of settles in. It's going to be how to remix for SoundCloud, which I think is a really exciting one. You're going to be able to watch me over the course of 8 weeks create a remix live, and then figure out what to do with it on SoundCloud and grow on SoundCloud in that aspect. So I think that's something that's going to be really popular.
I love that. I might have to jump in on that one. I think SoundCloud's been crushing lately, and I get all my music on SoundCloud. It's amazing.
Happens in waves. SoundCloud went like this, and now we're back up on the SoundCloud.
It's true. Maybe next episode, Gar. SoundCloud, TMP, we'll talk record pools, we'll talk all that stuff.
Yeah, we haven't done that in a while.
Teaser.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Appreciate you listening. Mikey Ferrari, thank you as always for, supporting us and being a part of the show. We will talk to you guys soon.
Later, guys. Peace.
Peace.